Let me get my thing going. Excellent. You've been all sitting in here, so I'm assuming you know you're in the right room. Let's go through our housekeeping things. Has everyone seen this slide enough today? Yes. Okay, good. More housekeeping? Has anyone heard of PASS? Okay, good. Slow down just a minute. I've got called on this last time. I'm still going to use the same phrase. Feedback is a gift. Some people will know where that phrase came from. Some people won't. Feedback is a gift. If you get anything out of any session, not just mine, but anyone else's, if you get something good out of those sessions, the one thing you can do for the speaker is provide them with the feedback. So please fill that out. Also, if you think the speaker was horrifically bad, cool. Tell them that. Just tell them why. You know, you stink. Cool. Can't do anything with that. Maybe I should shower. I don't know. But you understand? Please, just, I didn't mean to say that. You with me? All right, cool. My name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software. I'm a product evangelist. I don't believe in going into all these kinds of crazy stuff about describing my 25 years of experience, blah, 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 blah. No one cares, right? You don't want to hear it. What you want is a place to get some answers, a place to try to find some information. And so I like to just put up my contact information, let you know who I am, let you know how you can get in touch with me. Please use it. This is my email address. I answer all my emails. This is my Twitter handle. This is my LinkedIn. If you want to get in touch, please get in touch. I'm here to help. That's what I do. Also, while I'm talking about Redgate Software, I'm not talking about any kind of advertising for Redgate, but I want to talk to you about why I am here talking about Azure and why I'm here talking about cloud services, and talk about that just for a second from the context of what I do for work. Redgate made a commitment 2 years ago to never, ever, ever buy hardware, well, not hardware, to never buy a server ever again. And for the last 2 years, we have not. Now, we do have one server that I'm aware of that serves up some of our BI stuff, and at least currently, it's looking like maybe, possibly, we're going to throw some money at that one, possibly. We'll see. But other than that, we have not bought a server in 2 years. We are moving all of our management, all of our stuff is going virtual through various means. We are using not just Azure, but others. We're serious about it. They are making that commitment, and that's just an internal thing. Externally, they are also doing work in this space. We think it's going somewhere, and we're betting on it. And that's why I'm here talking about it. We've been working with it a bunch. I've got these things in production. So I'm not simply going to talk to you guys about vaporware. I'm not going to simply talk to you about, crazy stuff that I've never seen and show you an AdventureWorks example. I will show you an AdventureWorks example if I show you some examples, but only because I can't show you my production stuff. I'm sorry. You can't, I like you, just not that much. All right? So that's what's going on. Everybody with me? I lost one already. Okay, cool. I hope sincerely that no one can disagree with this statement. Everything is changing all the time. I'm starting to get hot. All the time, things are changing. We can't even slow it down. You can't pause it. You can't really get in front of it because it's kind of like a freight train. Now, not real long ago, where I grew up, while I was a kid, I saw people doing this. For real. It was how they plowed fields a few years ago. I'm only 30, so do the math. But they really were doing work like this. Nowadays, we're starting to see robotic tractors, remote controlled. They've got, FID chips on plants. They've got, we've come a long way from the south end of a northbound horse to this in my lifetime. Change is going to happen, period. It's just inevitable. So my almost sales pitch to you guys is embrace it. Get in front of it. Get on top of it. Learn it, live it, and love it, because it's going to happen anyway, with or without you. I wrote a blog post recently basically telling, I wrote it for developers, and every developer in here, I want you guys to do this. Telling developers, go take your MSDN account. Who has an MSDN account? Cool. Take your MSDN account, connect it up to Azure. You don't have to use a credit card. You don't have to pay a penny. It's part of your MSDN subscription. You hook it up to Azure, and I want you to go and start prototyping on this stuff. I want you to spin up some VMs. I want you to build some SQL databases. I want you to do structured storage, play with it. I want you to build things on it. I don't want you to tell your DBA. Don't tell them. Don't tell your sysadmins. Don't tell them. You don't have to. It's not necessary for them to know for you to connect up and get this work done. So you can speed up your processes and speed up development and get things done faster without these guys slowing you down and hindering you. Now, how many DBAs in the room now hate me? Good. Good. Because they're going to do it anyway. No one's going to listen to me. Some crazy dude standing up on stage is not going to influence people that much, I promise you. But they're going to do it on their own. They're going to figure these things out. They're going to start building these little robots. And who here loves it when the Excel spreadsheet from hell shows up on your desk that you have to fix? Who loves it when access suddenly rears its ugly head and now you've got to deal with it and somehow get it under control and get it into your databases and figure out the structures and all this crazy stuff? Anybody done that? Yeah, I love that. That's my favorite thing. I've just encouraged developers to kind of go and build a new access. And they're going to deliver these things to you guys, and it's going to have to go into production. Have fun. Seriously, get in front of this stuff and start learning it. Now, let me ask you, what is Windows Azure? If anyone sat through the keynote yesterday, they were talking about it. Today, not at all. It's awesome. If you weren't there, you missed it. It was awesome. What is Azure? Anybody? Shout it out. Cloud-based platform as a service. What kind of platform? Database platform as a service. Cool. You got a question? Answer? No? Anybody else? Come on. Shout them out. Try more. Anything. Windows Cloud. I suspect this is not a complete picture, but this is Windows Azure. It is Microsoft.NET, is Java, is PHP, is Node.js, is Python. It has application services on security. It has applications on data storage in both structured and unstructured forms. Structured form coming in Windows Azure VMs and SQL database. Unstructured forms being an HDN site, which is Hadoop. It's got web services. It's got reporting services. It has a giant global infrastructure, and I know for a fact that the locations I have here are out of date because they've announced a new one in Australia. There's a second one in China. There's a couple of more, one up where Nokia is, because they, for whatever reason, suddenly Nokia is interesting as a place to put data. I don't know why. It's a joke. Microsoft bought Nokia. I hate explaining jokes. Anyway. Yeah, I know, my jokes aren't that good, but we get used to it because they come anyway. I can't help it. That's Azure. It is gigantic and growing. They are putting new stuff in all the time. The cool thing is I have not seen them break anything yet. We've had stuff in production for a couple of years and nothing's broken. We've had a couple of small outages. We recover from it and move on. But they are constantly adding to this stack. It's wicked cool. Now, you guys don't care about the whole stack that much, so we're going to narrow it down a little bit and start talking about data storage. Now, you've got non-relational and relational data storage. The non-relational data storage is we have blob storage. It's just flat out blob storage. That's all it is, blobs, right? Everybody knows binary large objects, blobs. They've also got this thing called tables, which is sort of this funky ID value pair. I can't believe they named it table, right? They should have called it anything except that, because it's not really tables. It's an ID value pair, and it's for, massive data collection. It's not structured storage is completely unstructured storage, right? It's Mongo or something. Everybody all right with that? Then they have HD Insight, which is their Hadoop engine up on the cloud. So you can spin up, umpty gazillion Hadoop machines all up on Microsoft's, website to do massive, massive data, manipulation. Then they've got the structured data storage. Structured data storage comes in two pieces, either SQL Server as a virtual machine or SQL database. And SQL database is different. And virtual machines, the main thing I can tell you about virtual machines, and I can't say this enough because it's so simple, so clean, so clear, it's just a VM. Does anyone have VMs running back in their office? Yeah, that's a joke too, by the way, because everyone has VMs running in their office. Probably on your production servers. Your production servers are probably running in VMs today, whether you wanted them to or not, right? That's okay. This is just a VM. So all the strengths and all of the weaknesses that you're used to dealing with are there. It's just a VM. Repeat that to yourself over and over again, just like the old movie. It's just a movie. It's just a movie. It's just a VM. It's just a VM. All right? Let's drill down a little bit more and talk about relational data services in the cloud. They break down as infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. Infrastructure as a service is the VM. You've got full control, full flexibility, set it up the way you want to. The environments are really wildly customizable. It boggles the mind that all you got to do is sit around, think of methods you could do, and you can put it together. And the main thing that when I talk about that is the fact that you can do a hybrid environment. You can mix your on-premises, and notice on-premises, not on-premise. On-premise means I'm on point, following a particular line of thought. On-premises means I'm at a location, and saying on-premise, as Microsoft does over and over and over, makes me twitch uncontrollably. So let's make sure we use these words correctly. It also radically decreases your time to market. Is anybody here on Twitter? Was anybody here on Twitter yesterday during the announcement that CTP 2 on SQL Server 2014 was out? Okay, most of you guys were not. Cool. They weren't here, they don't know. God, give the story away. All right, so yesterday they announced SQL Server 2014 CTP 2. While we're at the session, while they're giving us the first demos, first views into this new CTP that none of us have ever seen before, none of us have ever had access to before, I connected to Azure and spun up a VM of SQL Server 2012 R2, which is not released yet, and running SQL Server 2014 CTP 2, which is not released yet, and it took me about 7 minutes. And I was running. And I heard several people next to me going, oh, cool, I'm going to start downloading it. And then a couple of friends of mine, one person had downloaded it, and she was handing out, everybody was bringing over their key to get a USB key to get a copy, and I kept saying, God, you guys are slow. Look, here it is. It's installed. It's configured. I'm running queries already. Because I went to VM. So when I say time to market, I don't mean like, oh yeah, we went from 9 months to 7 months. I mean, I had systems up immediately. Question, even on your VM systems at home, except for the lady probably running the cloud services, I bet you can do this. I bet you can. No, I'm serious. I'm not picking on you in this case. I'm saying I bet you can do this. Even on your VMs at home, how long does it take you to spin up a VM and Don't get excited and go, we can do that in a minute, and allocate disk space. Oh, yeah, that slows everybody down a little bit, right? Because the SAN team, yeah, they're giving you that disk space real fast, right? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, days, weeks, hopefully not years. I can get it here in 5 minutes. Now, as you add more and more disks, that time extends because it's just going to, right? Disk space is disk space, not, nothing magic. But, it's fast. Platform as a service. That's the Windows Azure SQL database. It's different. Best way to put it. It is SQL under the covers, but what's exposed to you is a platform. And so it's exposed to you as a database. You need to think of it as a database. It is a SQL Server database, but it is a database. It is not a server. It's not an instance. And you can't think about it that way because you don't have any of the stuff that allows you to get at it as an instance. It is a database and a database only. It's fully and completely managed by Microsoft, meaning they patch it on their own schedule. They maintain a type of backup process. They maintain a type of failover process, all for you. You don't touch any of that stuff, which is both exciting and horribly frightful at the same time. We'll talk some more about that. But the neat thing about the SQL databases are, it's just a SQL database. The structures are tables and foreign keys and primary keys, and the queries are select statements and CTEs and temp tables and all that fun stuff, exactly like you're used to using. And so you can build complete apps, everything exactly the way you're used to using it. You can use it for prototyping and then pull it down to your on-premises databases and your data structures. You can go from, certainly you can go from SQL database into SQL Server 2012 just easily. It's not so easy going from SQL Server 2012 to SQL database because there's some structural differences, certain things you have to have. Everybody okay with all this? Okay, so let's talk about just a little bit about some of the scenarios, the different ways you're going to use it. The VM, it's just a VM. I really can't say a whole lot more about it. I don't even want to, because if you've all used VMs and you have, we're done. But this is a new way to spin up a VM quickly and easily, especially in addition to the disk. So something to grab and take advantage of. If you were in the keynote yesterday, you guys saw cloud backup occurring. That's built into 2014. It's available in 2012 as a backup to a URL. And so you can go directly out to blob storage here for backups. And they released a tool that does compression and encryption for SQL Server 2005 and 2008 and 2008 R2 to back up again to the cloud. So you can get off-site storage, off-site backup. It's a great mechanism. Windows Azure SQL Database, I've already talked about a bunch about the methodologies you can use with that, so I'm not going to kind of drill on that here for a moment. Cloud HA. Who here is running availability groups? Few people, yeah. Of course you are. Who else? Anybody? I'm sorry, I didn't look. I got distracted by him. Okay, a few people. So who would like to run high availability? Who doesn't want to pay for enterprise? Okay, so yeah, everyone's hands should have gone up. Here's the good news and the bad news. I can make it so you don't have to pay for an enterprise, but you have to do the entire thing in the cloud. If you want to do a mix, hybrid, local machine with a failover to the cloud, which is possible and wicked cool, because I don't have to maintain or pay for an entire secondary site to maintain all my systems. Oh yeah, talk about cost savings. That you have to have enterprise for. I am so sorry. Talk to the guy in the green shirt and tell him it's all his fault. Yes? Well, because you can do enterprise VMs where you're only paying for the VM, not paying for enterprise licensing. I'll talk about, let me get to the VMs and talk a little bit about the licensing. Although I'm not going to drill down on licensing in a major way. Look, nerd, not accountant, okay? And not a Microsoft accountant, okay? So I can give you some idea about how it works, but don't come to me for real numbers. 2 and 2 is something, right? That's near 5, plus or minus 1, I think, probably. Oops. And also you can extend your on-premises or on-prem is safe, right? On-prem is safe. You can extend those apps, and so you can have a mixed hybrid approach on your applications. put some of the data in the cloud, maybe do, I don't know, get it up into Hadoop quicker and easier directly from your application, do all kinds of fun stuff. I mean, it's just your imagination is going to be the limit there. All right, let's talk about just, you know, why you would want to do this real quick. I know this, it seems sales pitchy, and I'm feeling kind of bad about it suddenly. So we already talked about low cost of ownership, and I really like to have that. The beautiful thing is when you're talking those virtual machines, you've got the full SQL Server capability. It's completely built in. You've got a lot of flexibility, you've got a lot of control, and you have a infrastructure that you get to manage. Now let's just switch over here. One sec. Sure, go ahead. Oh, by the way, ask me questions at any point. Yes, sir. Oh, go back to the slide. Sorry about that. Absolutely. You're saying, the question is am I saying that this comes with complete SQL Server installed on the VM? Yes, I am. That's what I'm saying. How about I show it to you? Hang on. Sorry, my laptop is horrifically bad, so I got to crank my head around here to see what I'm doing. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay, so these are your virtual machines. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, I'm going to click on Add New, and it's going to pop out. Now I've got two options when I go in to do my virtual machines. I can create a quick create, which is just create a virtual machine and customize later, or we can create it from the gallery. The gallery is going to allow me to do a couple of things. I'm going to show you in a minute, and then I'm also going to make a couple of jokes because I love doing this a little bit, and I'm sorry, you get to share. The virtual machines can be created from here, or you get the option of creating virtual machines in Hyper-V, and there's a question I still don't have an answer for. I've been told they can support creating them in VM and importing them, but I don't know if that's VMware. You said they can? Create them in VMware and then importing them. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if that's possible or not. Someone told me it was, but I've not been able to validate that. So let's assume it's not true until we know it is. I know. Well, I was just going to say, if you have Hyper-V VMs, you want to create the VM, configure it, set it up on your own machine, you can then upload it to the cloud and have it run. Or you can create blank VMs and then install any software you want, any way you want. Two things about that. When you do it that way, setting up your own Hyper-V VMs and loading them up, or creating blank VMs and installing software, you must pay for the licensing. Just so we're completely clear. However, those type of VMs are the cheapest VMs. The ones where you're paying for the licensing, those are the cheapest flat-out VMs when you come into here. Okay, so it's going to be a juggling act whether you want to pay for licensing or pay for a cheap VM. But what if we just went to the gallery, clicked on that, and then we can go in here and install all these different kinds of VMs. So we've got SQL Server 2012 Data Center, SQL Server 2012 R2 Data Center, SharePoint Server, the man who was asking earlier if we can install SharePoint servers. Yes, sir, we can. You can set up your own SharePoint server through here. You can set up SQL Server 2014 CTP2 evaluation on Windows Server 2012, or on data warehousing, or on Enterprise, on 2008 R2, or on 2012 R2. You can keep going. And matter of fact, we will keep going because I want to show you a couple of other things. Are we there yet? Ah, there we are. So there's some good news recently. Oracle finally has a cloud solution. It's called Microsoft. Because you can go in and set up all of your Oracle VMs in here. Okay? I love that. It's just the best thing in the world. I'm sorry. I don't pick on developers. I love developers. I certainly don't pick on DBAs because I am one. I pick on management a little. I pick on SAN admins. But boy, do I beat up Oracle people. I'm sorry, but they got it coming. So cool. Anyway, let's keep going. If we wanted to create a CTP, I can't even see which one I'm creating, so we're just going to pick it and go with it. Come on. Arg. Oh, okay. Oh, no, I just can't see where I'm. This is unfortunate, the way that they've got the thing set up. Ah, there's what I'm looking for. Doesn't matter which server. I just want to pick a server. So once I've got a server that I want to set up, I've got a choice of where I set it up, obviously. I have to create a virtual machine name, and it has to be unique within my environment. Now, my environment, I'm going to get into a little bit of detail of what my environment means in just a second. But it has to be unique within my environment, and then I can pick a size. And the size is fun. It is limited. But I've got the ability to, it's probably a little bit small for you guys, right? Let me zoom in. Move over. Okay, let me zoom back out. And then try zooming in again so it shows it. There we go. Good. Oh, I suck. Yeah, I need a second set of eyes is what I need. No, we're good. I'm not going to pick one. There's your basic layout of what you can get. Up to 8 cores and 56 gigs of memory. Now, you're going to pay for that. Trust me. But what we're going in here, the reason I want to go in here and show you this, you get to pick and choose how much resources you use, and you're going to pay for whatever resources you use. But we're also setting up Windows Server and SQL Server, and I'm not paying anything in licensing. I'm paying more for the VM, and that's all. That licensing cost is built into the VM cost. So it's another way that lowers the total cost of ownership. It is much cheaper to set these things up through here than to pay for the licensing. Trust me on that. It just is. Yes, sir? If you own Enterprise Edition, you can have a warm standby on Azure. Yes, that is true. There is a way to set that up. It's more or less failover. It's not always on, though. It's setting up a cluster, and you can set up a cluster. I haven't gotten to my networking slide yet, so I want to wait on until we start talking about all the hybrid things. But basically, you can set this up, and you can go to town. And you already, as you heard from yesterday, or I can show you if you want to see 2014. But it's 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and you got a new server online. Have fun. It's that easy. So, sky's the limit from that point. Not there yet. He asked, does it just look like a local server? Give me 1 second. Sorry? Oh, can you change it dynamically? Absolutely. So what you saw there with the different sizes, you want to make it like, here's an example, and honestly a recommended example. Set it up during the day. We're only using 4 cores, probably hitting 60–70% most of the time on CPU. We're good. We're happy. At night, we've got a data load. Bump it up to 16 cores, run the data load, then bump it back down, all automatically. Yeah, have fun. Easy. PowerShell. Simple PowerShell commands to make that happen. It's a different cost based on the number of processors. When you flip it, you start paying, and it's per minute. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. People are like, whoa, wait, it's per minute. Yeah, but it's like pennies. It's just ridiculously small amounts that add up. It's amazing, like 1 penny added to another penny, and suddenly you're paying $50. Just, how'd that happen? Anyway, next slide. Several questions about this, so I want to make sure I covered it, because we had it in the next slide. You can build a virtual network. The whole thing with a virtual network is you can start to scale. You can set it up so that you've got your own domain, your own IP addresses, your own configuration set up from your servers, and then set up these VMs as part of your network, and they are just machines on your network. With one point I would like to make. Who here has flawless, perfect, continuous, never failing, never blinking connections to the internet? Yep. You got to think about that. You got to plan for it. Meaning, code, this is, okay, yeah, this is the point where I get to say this, cool. The beautiful thing about this is you've got this ability to set up really insane, complex scenarios. You can fail over from the cloud to your local machine, fail over from local machine to the cloud. You can set up clustering. You can set up high availability. You can set up mirroring, log shipping. Anything you can do with SQL Server, you can do here. Anything. Whatever the heck it is you're doing at home, you can do it here. You'll just be doing it through your network pipe on the cloud. That's it. But because we are talking about internet, it forces us to do a few things that we've gotten extremely lazy about. Not DBAs so much as developers. I'm not picking on you guys when I say that. Why should you build massive connection resiliency into the applications that you build when they're sitting on this giant fat pipe on your local servers and they don't go down very often, right? I mean, they just don't. Internet connectivity may get lost occasionally, but your local network runs pretty much 365, right? I mean, am I wrong when I say that? Pretty much. So you don't build much resiliency into your code because you don't have to. You also don't sweat too much performance because you don't have to. You don't sweat too much, issues with queries and stuff because you don't have to, because you can always buy bigger hardware. Spend a little bit of money and you're off and running. But once you move into a situation like this, Azure requires you, God, I love saying it, to code correctly. You have to build resiliency into your code. You have to build performance into your code. You have to get it right. If you don't build it right, it's going to be painful. And you're going to be like going, Grant, the guy said it was easy. Yeah, it is easy as long as you build the code right. You've got to make sure you've got connection retry logic and all that stuff built in to the application code that you build. Otherwise, this will hurt. And I can't put it any other way. Other than that, though, you don't have to change your code at all. As long as you've got the resiliency there to ensure the connectivity is going to be in place, your code doesn't have to change because this supports .NET. It's SQL Server on a VM. I mean, it's a VM. It's just connected onto your network. Right? Nothing else to say. Straightforward. Okay? Let's shift gears. Any questions on VMs before we move on? Am I going to talk about bandwidth? Nope. Am I going to talk about throttling? I can talk about throttling in a minute. But I'm not going to talk about bandwidth because that's, one, it's your internet connection is the main bandwidth problem. There's not, at least that I've observed in anything that I've done, a massive bandwidth issue within Azure to Azure communication. The main problem is your machine up to Azure, and it is going to be internet limited. They don't have, Amazon has this thing where you can pay money to connect directly to their backbone or some stuff. I haven't done that one yet. I suspect that's real cheap too. But Microsoft does not offer that service yet. Believe me, if there's a market for it, they'll build it. But that's not there. Does that roughly give you an idea? There has to be a certain, he said there's got to be a certain minimum amount of bandwidth for certain applications. Yes, there does, but you're going to have to just measure it and figure out whether or not you're hitting those max and stuff. I have not hit a lot of issues, but we also build a lot of our stuff, Azure only. So there's very little bandwidth issues. There was another question, yes?
Can you speak a little bit about the compliance scenarios
Oh, that's... Oh, yeah? I wasn't trying to bail on it so much. Well, no, I was. Yeah, you got me. I'm sorry. I'll admit it. I was trying to bail. I was hoping Dandy was going to be here to answer that question. Well, no, you can't talk to me afterwards. Not because I have to run. I don't have a good answer for you. Well, I was going to say the Microsoft guys might have a good answer, and which is why I wanted Dandy to be here. What's the Microsoft answer?
The Microsoft answer is that if you have sensitive data, you just talk to your Microsoft rep and tell them that you want to put it on Azure. And what they're going to do is they're going to move your VMs to an area of the data center that they call the cage. And that thing's specifically walled off and protected for sensitive data.
So they do actually have a sensitive data story. Okay, let me repeat it. So what he said is that Microsoft does actually have I did not know that. Thank you. I'm so glad you were here. Microsoft does have a story for sensitive data. What you have to do is there's no automated method and no mechanism directly available through the interface here for you to get at it. But what they have is a thing they call the cage. You contact Microsoft and say, I want to put sensitive data into Azure, and then they've got a special thing that they will set you up into, and it's just a separate process that you have to go through. So you contact Microsoft. That partially explains why I don't know, because I don't talk to Microsoft a lot.
Is that something they would do a business associate agreement for situations where you have to deal with HIPAA?
Deal with HIPAA? Yes, that's exactly how they're going to have to deal with that. HIPAA, some of the, if you are within the encryption issues with SARbox, which not everybody is, PCI, yes, absolutely. That's what you're going to have to do. All right. I don't want to spend too much time on that just because I really don't want to spend too much time on that. I'm sorry, any other questions on VMs? I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about SQL database, just because I can't say it enough. It's different. And so you have to just get your brain wrapped around that difference and then accept it. Until your brain wraps around that difference, you won't be able to accept it. Because these little things, little stuff like backups that you can't do. Well, okay, you can, but they can't be transactionally consistent. Well, they can be transactionally consistent, but they're not really a backup at that point. It's a copy of a database followed by an export of the database. Ugh. You're saying I can't run backup. Yes, I am saying you can't run backup. This, by the way, this is the great part of every time I get one in this session, because everybody's just like, well, you can't run backup? No, you can't run backup. Wait, you can't run backup? Yeah, I'm saying you can't run backup. But you mean you can't run backup? Yeah, you can't run backup. You can't run restore either. What? You can't run restore? No, you can't run restore either. You can't get point-in-time recovery either. Not yet. That's actually something they are working on-ish. But the point-in-time recovery will be only for premium Windows Azure SQL database. Let me cover it just a little bit. I love to get the shock right out of the way quick, because now that you know that you don't have backups and restores, your brain can start to recover, and we can figure out what we're doing. So, managed platform infrastructure, it is a platform we are focused on here. It's not like SQL Server. It is SQL Server, but it's not like SQL Server. It's a platform. You're paying for this database. You're not paying for a VM. You're not paying for SQL Server. It's all about the amount of data that you store. It even has a 3 nines uptime SLA. 3 whole nines. Who here needs 6 nines? You can't do this. Sorry, moving on. That's how it works. But it has got massive scalability. Now, I have personally not done this, so I mean, on this one, I freely admit, and like I say, I try to be honest. I try to tell you guys the truth, what I know, what I don't, what I've done, and what I haven't. I have not done the whole sharding thing where I put up terabytes of data by sharding them across multiple Azure SQL databases. Because did I tell you about the fact that you only can have 150 gig? Oh no, I should have told you that too. Yeah, only 150 gig. Max. Part? Per database, 150 gigabytes. Yeah, not terabytes, gig. Yeah, gig, 150 gig that you can't back up. I mentioned that too, right? Okay. I mean, you're already going like, why on God's green earth would I use this? There's a lot of good reasons for this. It's pretty cool stuff. But the main cool thing about it is this whole ability to be able to add and drop databases on the fly. So you got an expandable capacity. You only pay for what you use. Let's say you are some type of ad agency. You're going to run some ad on the Super Bowl. You're going to get, you normally get 1,000 hits a day, just picking numbers. And you're suddenly going to be getting 1 million hits. And you want to be able to expand it up and down easily. You would go in here and do this stuff. Let's say you were, I don't know, the U.S. government, and you were getting ready to release a, healthcare system. You might want to actually make it so it could expand to support a certain number of connections. I don't know. Sorry, I had to go there. Or I don't know, hey, run testing. But it is fast, it is flexible, but it's only databases. And it's based completely on SQL Server, so almost every bit of the stack except one data type. Variant. Yes. DBAs, oh my God, expected to get carried out like a rock star. No variant. No variant data type, and how wonderful is that? Yes, sir?
Yeah, so where does the scalability come in play that it can only have a max database of 150 gigs?
I'm sorry. Where's the scalability? The scalability is in sharding, splitting up your data so that you can add and subtract 150 gig databases by splitting the data storage programmatically. Microsoft's doing it now. Again, this is not something I have done. Microsoft is doing it now with several large clients where they are moving terabytes of data in and out of the system efficiently, quickly. And they are adding and dropping those terabytes too, all programmatically, all automatically. And again, it's not one I've done, so I can't speak the details on it. Have you done it at all yet? No. 20 terabytes. He said 20 terabytes is the largest one that's on Azure right now. I do know that the largest SQL install in the world is a lot bigger than that. These guys in England that run it, man, it's huge. But they won't tell me anything. I'm like, well, how do you solve this problem? Yeah, sorry, trade secret. Crud. All right, real quick, let's talk about how Azure SQL Database works, because it's important to know. The thing you have to understand, it's different, right? You've got the whole concept of working within your programming stack. It's not any different. It's completely the stuff you're used to. Nothing's changed. But you've got this services layer going on that's getting in the way. No other way to put it. It's getting in the way of what you're used to. You've got this whole thing of provisioning, billing, metering, and connection routing. These all are set up and managing the system, and it's a gateway between what you're doing on the client and what's going on the platform. On the platform, you've got this whole thing to manage these databases. And the reason it's showing you, why would it repeat 3 times on each of these? Anybody? Oh, everybody already knows this. Cool, you get 3 copies of your database. And that's what it's showing here. That comes out as a single service that you can see. It looks like a database, but it isn't. It's 3. And it has this thing that looks like a server, but it's not at all a server. It's just sort of this management container that holds the databases so that you can run queries against them and whatnot and have it look like a database. But you're not dealing with a single database, you're dealing with 3 databases, a primary, 2 secondaries. They fail over. They're on different servers, but all within one, currently within one data center. You can pay for a lot of money cross data center storage. So you have something in Hong Kong and in North US, but you can't really do that. You can also pay extra money. Currently, you have to ask Microsoft if you can join a program. Please let me spend money at your place. And they'll yeah, we'll think about it. You can join a program for premium SQL databases, which will give you a small modicum degree of control back. Because did I mention that you don't have any access to setting up disks at all. It's a database, it's not a server, so you can't add disks. Did I mention that except for paying more money for the Azure, for the premium, you cannot add memory, you cannot add CPU. It's a database as a platform that you can't back up. Okay? Are we all right with that? Any questions on that one? Yes. So what if you have issues? Okay. Well, here's the way I put it. I don't know if this is the Microsoft story or not. DR is your problem. If you have performance issues, you should have been at my session yesterday. I told you what to do. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. If you have major performance issues, you can pay extra money, get CPU and memory if that's where you're bottlenecking. The methods that you can use are on the next slide, and we'll talk about that a little bit, all right? But the tool set is largely the tool set you guys are used to, with a couple of exceptions that you're going to love. Trust me. But it's pretty straightforward. Yes?
Talk about a premium, similar to enterprise versus standard,
No, it's not, because it doesn't add functionality, it simply adds power. He asked if the premium was the same as, talking standard versus enterprise. And no, it's not. It just adds power. It's because this is a platform, right? Remember, it's a database platform, and it's not SQL Server, a server, an instance, any of that stuff. So you're not paying more for enterprise, you're just paying more for another CPU. You're paying more for some more memory. Because what you have now is a shared resource. So your database is running right next to hers, right next to his, right next to his, right next to his, and somewhere in the range of, the number I heard, 30,000 databases on a server. Yes? No. And let me repeat your question. Let me repeat your question. She said that does raise the question about features, right? Standard versus enterprise, and what kind of features do I have here, and can I, for example, partition a table? And the short answer is no. You can't partition a table. There's a whole slew of functionality you don't get. What you're getting here is a database. And I'll show you a little bit about what you can and can't do that's going to freak you out. Yeah, if you're saying but that's just it. She says she ruled this one out in her mind, but I think they're awesome. It's just that it's a box, right? And as long as you can play inside that box, it's cool. As soon as you move outside that box, it's not cool anymore. It's just, that's just how it goes. Yes?
And I think, I can clearly see that this is awesome for a quick startup. You have a mobile app, you have development, there's something that you need to get off the ground fast, you're going to port it into your own environment. This is the perfect place for that.
Yes.
So I would say don't write it off completely. I don't think I would put my production work over here. But I would seriously think about it being a quick sandbox for developers.
Okay, so she's saying she sees it as a quick way for startups, definitely a sandbox for developers, but she wouldn't put production information on it. That's a choice. I'll tell you right now, I have production information on it. Hasn't been a problem. Our app has to allow for connectivity. That's the main point. And as long as the structure is decent, the queries are well written. In other words, as long as I code correctly, it works fine.
Hey Grant, so with SQL Azure, then what would you typically do if someone accidentally does a delete statement?
Oh, if you're working with Timmy and he drops the table or deletes the... Today, whatever backup, the last time you did a backup, and and again, the backups are like this: copy the database, do an import, export. Whatever you had the last time you did it, that's what you've got to do the restore on. You don't get access to the log. You don't get access to point-in-time recovery today. That is something they're working on, but it will be available in premium. I love this part of the conversation because everybody gets excited. What is the compelling business reason to move up to this? Speed, ease, and that expandable capacity. The ability to shard your data programmatically and run terabytes of information. Like I said, 20 terabytes just spread across the stuff that you're paying very little for. You've got the platform in place, and it's programmatic, easy to manage. It's a bunch of PowerShell scripts just to fire these things off. It's easy. And so you can, again, that expandable and contracting capacity because you only pay for what you use. Whereas today, if you want to have, you buy your servers, everybody's servers are pegged at 100% all day long, right? I mean, I know a few of you guys are, but no, right? They're probably, 20, 30% most of the day. Maybe sometimes at night they hit 100. So you purchased more than you use, a lot more than you use. On here, you would only pay, if you're on the VM, for example, you're only going to pay for what you use. If you're on the SQL database, you only pay for what you store and what you pull down. So it's very inexpensive and very expandable and quick and easy. And those are the main business cases. Yeah, am I saying that, like, hey, I want my bank where my money is kept to use this? No. Heck no. Do I think every app belongs up here? Oh, heck no. Do I even believe a majority of your applications can belong up here? No, I don't. I think it's a subset. I think it's a small subset. What we've got here is a very special tool. It does certain things extremely well. It does other things poorly. But if you can make that tool work, you use it. If you can't make the tool work, don't use it. Not hard. And then the other thing is just a VM. So do anything you want. Of course, you have to have the resiliency. All right, we got to keep going over. So, tool set. You do get the management portal. You do get Management Studio. You get Visual Studio, you get PowerShell, and there are third-party apps filling in the gaps in certain areas. The management portal lets you look at the tools. We've already been in there a little bit. It lets you do a few things with the databases. You do get a query window that includes execution plans and performance metrics, meaning stats IO and stats time, and some of the DMOs, dynamic management objects, the database-specific DMOs, meaning no OS queries, none. No server-level queries, none. Database-specific. You can look at system exec requests. You can look at system exec query stats, pull back aggregate information, but 30,000 databases, cache tends to be a little volatile, just a bit. Right? We're on top of that? Cool. Management Studio works. When you do Management Studio, you can work on the desktop, connect up directly to the cloud. You get full T-SQL functionality within the footprint, which is a limited footprint. You do get a query window, which allows you to run execution plans and performance metrics. You get to call all the DMOs, just like I said. For performance query tuning, what did I not mention? Profiler, trace, which no one's using, right? What's the other one we should be using? Extended events, that's right. So we're all using extended events. Lie to me. Right? Okay, good. That's what I want to see. Everyone should be using extended events. Well, except until you go to here, you can't use extended events anymore. Or trace. Or agent. How am I getting around agent? Okay, I have two answers. I have an answer I can tell you after we stop the session. And I have an answer I can tell you now. The answer I can tell you now is I actually spin up a VM and run agent from there to manage my SQL databases. It's easy. Because the connectivity, I mean, it's just connection right across. So that's an easy way to do it. I put up the VM and suddenly I have an agent. Now, I can't run like trace from the VM. I can't run extended events from the VM against the Azure database. That stuff's just not available. It's not there. I mean, if you connect up to through Management Studio, which I can try to do, although cranking my head around here is going to be difficult. All you get to see is database security, and you get to see the management folder, but it's empty. because somebody at Microsoft hard-coded it into the SSMS. Seriously, it had to be. PowerShell is amazing. You can really go to town on it. There's a whole series of Azure PowerShell commands all around SQL database, and you can use all the invoke SQL commands for running queries against it, just like if you're running locally, and you can use SMO, and it works. So you can get full control of SMO over the things you actually get. You can run SSDT, so you can do database projects, you can use their comparison tools, and you can integrate directly with source control, all through SSDT. And then, like I said, there's a bunch of third-party apps coming out. I'm not going to list them. Come to me afterwards, I'll talk about it. Just to talk real quick about some of the deployment solutions so that you know how to get there. You can use, Windows Azure in a virtual machine. It's going to let you, move existing stuff, develop and test, HADR. Based on the time, I don't want to go over all this because it's in the slides and you guys can get it. Here's a bit I do want to talk about. Optimization, getting queries to run fast, getting things set up in SQL Azure database actually requires traditional, hardcore, good old-fashioned query tuning. I am sorry, you can't go buy a bigger box, right? Because we don't have time to tune our queries. We're just going to buy a bigger box and let it run. If you're going here, you're going to have to write your code correctly, and I just love saying that because it's awesome. You do have the ability, as what I've already said, to go to Windows Azure SQL Premium, which is a mechanism of throwing money at the problem, but it's an incomplete mechanism, frankly. You don't get to throw disks at it. So if you're I/O bound, you're I/O bound, period, unless you tune. But you do get to scale out through sharding, which is a major performance optimization because you can throw databases at the problem instead of trying to throw other hardware at the problem. That's a great way to split out everything. You can get some performance improvements through that. But while talking about performance improvements, I would be remiss if I didn't mention throttling, as you mentioned earlier. Throttling is a problem, but it's a difficult problem to hit with one exception. There is an exception. The basic idea of throttling is if you write a query that uses too much TempDB, you will get throttled. What's throttling? They kill your connection. If you use too much memory, they kill your connection. If you have a transaction that's running too long, causing the logs so it can't, then there's still logs, the log can't be truncated, they kill your connection. I'm starting to feel like Francis, Any of you look at my stuff, I'll kill your connection. Right? That's exactly how it works. What? That's exactly how it works. It kills your connection. However, I've written some really bad queries, and intentionally. I've written some accidentally too, I freely admit, but I've intentionally written some really bad queries, and it's difficult to get throttling. You have to be screwing up royally. Or you've got to be Itzhak Ben-Gan and doing a demo. Let me watch this, 3 lines, I'll bring your server down, right? You're one or the other. I couldn't get it to throttle, with one exception. So, too much TempDB, too many resources, too much memory. Interesting. Anybody here ever rebuild an index? Where does most of the processing occur? TempDB, yeah. So, if you think you got like a, say, 100 gig index, it's kind of fragmented. Could be the process runs long. Could be that it uses a lot of TempDB. Could be, that you get throttled. Yeah, rebuilding indexes can throttle you. Oh, cool. Thank you, Microsoft. So what happens if I don't rebuild my indexes? Well, it could be nothing. Or you could hit performance problems, cause things to slow down, so you use too many resources, which, anyone see where we're going? So the whole thing with indexes is actually an issue. So you got a solution, possible. You could drop and recreate the index. I mean, just drop it and recreate it, not try to rebuild it. Possibly. Probably won't work. Or you could turn on premium, because you can turn it on and off. Turn on premium, get yourself some more CPU, get yourself some more memory, rebuild the index, turn it back off again. It's cool, right? Just pay for what you need. Yeah, but currently, the way premium works, and again, I like to say currently because these things shift. The way premium works is it takes 24 hours to turn it on, and you pay for the full 24 hours. And then it takes 24 hours to turn it off, so you pay for the full 24 hours. So if you want to rebuild an index, you get to pay a whole lot more money for 48 hours. Rebuild them all. Because you're paying for it, you might as well use it. Currently, that's how it works. Now, that may change. Yep, it's not any different than SQL Server. I mean, it's SQL Server. So he said, does it have all the locking and concurrency issues? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You write a bad piece of code, you have a slightly not correct index, your statistics have gotten out of date, you're getting scans instead of seeks, locks and blocks and all that fun stuff all lines up exactly what you would expect. Well, it's SQL Server. You can do a bunch of stuff about it. You can tune the queries. You can fix the indexes. Update the statistics. All that stuff works exactly as written. No different. But you can't throw hardware at it. You really can't. So I love saying what's old is new again. We keep our transactions as small as possible. Although, if you have millions of little tiny transactions, you can run into major problems with it. So you may want to batch those up. So that gets a bit of a dance. Move the data you need to move, only move it when you need to move it, and tune your queries. Oh my God, that sounds like the good old days of client-server, right? Right? Exactly, it is. You have to write code correctly. You have to do it right. I just love it. I mean, it's just no other way to get around it. I think it's fantastic. Sorry. Any other questions on that? Yes, sir. Can you define TempDB on this? No, that's a server level thing. You can't do that. How much space do you get on TempDB? However much Microsoft gives you. You're sharing that across all the other databases. With Timmy. With 100 Timmys. I mean, if there's 30,000 databases, there's at least 100 Timmys. At least 100. Might be more like 500 or 1,000. Yeah. Yeah, and there's this really cool thing there's a phrase they call noisy neighbor. And so if you've got somebody who is actually using a lot of resources, way too many resources, after a while they will notice. Microsoft's got internal monitoring, and if you've got a noisy neighbor, they can fail them over. You can even look at wait stats, SysDB wait stats, not SysOS wait stats. Because SysOS wait stats, that's gone because it's an operating system, but they've replaced it with a new one, SysDB wait stats. You open up SysDB wait stats, you can see the wait stats for the database, which, by the way, at least on CTP1, was not available in 2014, making me quite angry because I thought that was cool. Database level wait stats? Yeah. But anyway, can't do it. Not yet. I haven't checked CTP2. But where was I? Oh, yeah. The noisy neighbor. So you can look at the wait stats, and if you get SE-REPL acknowledged or SE-REPL commit waits, that means that there is a noisy neighbor in the neighborhood, right? Somewhere on the server you're on, there's a noisy neighbor. But when you call Microsoft, imagine that meeting that you had last week where you're trying to discuss the last production outage that you had, and you're looking around the room trying to figure out where's the idiot? Whose fault was it? And you can't spot him. You know what I mean? You can't spot the idiot in the room? It's because it could be you. So if you're getting a lot of those waits, you call Microsoft, don't be surprised they fail your server over. It's just connection resiliency, though. It's just correct programming that resolves that issue. Okay? Any more questions in this area? For the moment? Okay. Anybody want to look at that real quick? Oops. Let's see if we can connect up to my... Something's happening. Oh, it restarted. Bummer. Hang on. Come here, baby. There it is. Oh, my VM's running slow today. Cool. How about that local sports team? Which is not as good a joke since, like, you know, how many people are from Charlotte? Like 5, 6, right? Everybody else is. Sorry, couldn't help it. Uh-oh. All right, we're not going down any further down that road. I'm bailing. I love you, but we're going to bail because that takes a few minutes to clean up, and I can't see. I apologize that I'm bailing, but I'm going to bail. So, we also have to worry about data movement. Who here has heard of the DAC pack? Okay, who here has heard of the backpack? Slight reduction in numbers. The DAC pack and the backpack are import-export mechanisms that build a query, set of queries that can build a database and do a data export. That is your mechanism for moving data in and out of Windows Azure SQL database. You can do a DAC pack to do a backpack to do a backup, which again is just an export. As I said before, to do that backup, you've got to make it transactionally consistent. If you just run an export from your database, while data is in it, you can have very inconsistent data, right? So what you have to do is copy that database, literally create a copy, and then that second database doesn't have any connections to it. You can run a backup off of it. Just so you know, that's how it works. You can manage data movement through data sync. Again, this one is not one I have done. I have not been involved with the development on that data sync stuff. So I got nothing for you other than, hey, there's this cool utility called data sync. Have you guys worked with it at all? Okay, so yeah, data sync's actually still in beta. Lots and bits and pieces of this are still in beta. Very, very public betas in which you get to play. It's fun stuff. I love it. All your SSIS mechanisms are absolutely going to work as standard. It's just a connection. It's just a database. You run queries against it. It will work for the most part, except for the footprint bits that don't work at all. Okay? Questions on that? No? All right. Sorry. Go ahead. SSIS will kick off the throttle too? Oh, I haven't tried that. Oh, nuts. Oh, cool. Jorge told me that SSIS can kick off the throttle. If you try to move a bunch of data into the database, you can get throttled. Cool. I can't wait. I'm going to try. That's going to be fun. There's actually some error messages I've been trying to get, so I can do a couple blog posts on it, and you just helped. Yes, sir. How about SSIS connections to Oracle? You mean at Oracle VMs? That's a really different topic. I'm not an SSIS guy, so I'm gonna suggest that you track down like Andy Leonard. He could tell you. There's some other guys down there. Yeah, I don't know. You want to talk to him afterwards? Okay, you come up here and find this rather large gentleman afterwards. I'm sorry, I didn't say that right. Let me say it correctly. Freakishly large gentleman. I'm sorry. I do apologize. And you guys will discuss that. Cool. Any other data movement? All right. It's data storage. I think it's by the... Oh, data movement. Oh, no, data movement's cool. You move up, it's free. Down, oh no, down you pay for. What you store, you pay for. What you move down, you pay for. What you move up doesn't cost you anything. In other words, they're more than happy to take your data, they're more than happy to keep your data, but they don't really want to give it back. Does that make sense? Well, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it makes sense or not, because that's what they're doing. Yes. A lot? No, because these databases are small. He said, is that going to cost you a lot to do this thing where you make a copy of the database and export it? Is that going to cost you a lot? No, these databases are small. Although if you get 100 of them and do it, it's going to cost you some money. Yes. They've got a costing engine you can look up. I'm not going to try to describe it. Again, nerd. I just not enough information about that. I like to point out where the costs come from, but what the exact costs are, I'm gleefully ignorant. But there is a costing engine online. It's pretty easy to track down. Look up Azure Costing Engine, and it'll show it to you. Anything else? Yes, sir. What about using link server? No. You can. I need to do a little further testing on it, but I'm going to say it anyway. You can go from your on-premises to an Azure SQL database up, right? But you can't link server from the Azure database to anything. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So hopefully, you guys are somewhere in the middle of this transition. You're not riding behind that horse. I'm assuming. You're probably driving that nice John Deere. But we want to get you to move all the way over and start getting that robotic stuff going on. All right? It's really cool. It's awesome. It's available now. You have most of the skill set you need. It's the little gotchas, the little weirdnesses that you're going to have to go through to get it going on it. But honestly, you guys are ready. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm not that smart, right? It's pretty simple stuff. And it's just a question of understanding where you're going to hit little snags that are going to cause problems. And I would say, honestly, the biggest snag is connectivity. So once you deal with the connectivity, you should be good to go. I mean, it's fun stuff. So I've got 3 whole minutes left in the session, so we can answer any questions anybody has. Thank you very much for coming. I know people are starting to leave. Feel free to leave. But if you're going to fill out the evals and tell me how horrible I am, that's great. But just tell me why, so I can try to get better.
Because you won't let us back up our databases.
That's why. Thanks. For those who didn't hear, he said, because I won't let him back up his database.